This is Sean with Premier Outdoor Living. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a pressure-treated deck frame with Madison wood. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to make it as painless as possible. After this video, you'll be framing up a deck in no time. First step here is to figure out our beams and get those installed. So we have a span here of close to 23 feet. The lumber only comes in dimensions of 20 feet and less, so we're gonna have to splice our beam together. When you do that, you just wanna figure it out so that your beam splices land on top of your footings. So we have that all figured out. We're getting ready to assemble the beams together and then we'll lay them in place. So we like to build them on the side, put them all together, walk them over, put them into place. Like I said, if you have a beam span, the width of your deck is going to be bigger than 20 feet, which is the longest piece of dimensional lumber you're going to be able to get. What you want to do is put your splices right over top of the footing. So that's what we did here. We're using 2x12s here so that we can have a little bit more of a span in between our footings. So you can check those tables out online to figure out what size beams you need, how far they can span, and that should get you started on the planning stage. A really easy way to square up your beams and make sure they're all in the right line, if you have an inside corner of the house like this, put a string line all the way in the corner, and then you're just going to bring it to the outside. Lift your end up a little bit. And it should be even with the house at the outside of this beam. So we're square to the house. If the house isn't perfectly square, we still want to be based off of that, so we're square to the house. Another way to do it is to measure diagonally across the beams and make sure you have the same measurement there. So that's an easy way to do it. Doesn't require any math or real thinking at all. You just use a string line, square off of that inside corner of the house, and it's pretty effective. So good tip for you there.
Hey Sean, what are you doing there?
Oh, hey Pat. Not too much. We are measuring these joists. These are our Madison joists here. Because it's a natural product, they do vary in heights up to 1/4 of an inch. So not a big deal if you know how to handle it. So what we do, we measure each one. A 2x8 is going to vary from about 7 1/4 to 7 1/2. This one right here is right in the middle at 7 3/8. So we're going to make piles of our joists, 7 1/2, 7 3/8, and 7 1/4. And then when we install those joists, we're going to put them down in order. So we'll start with 7 1/2, go to 7 3/8, and then go down to 7 1/4. So the top of our deck is nice and smooth. We don't want to have a 7 1/4 next to a 7 1/2, then back down to 7 1/4. You're going to get a huge hump in the deck. So that's something that you're going to want to do. It's really easy, but not a lot of people know about it. So nice little tip for you. What we do after we have the beam set, and like I said, we order these joists. We've marked out our beam exactly where we need our joists to go. So since this is a freestanding deck, what we do, we set up our rim joist that's going to go against the house right on top of this beam. We stand up our joist, nail it in, and then as a team, it's a little bit harder with a bigger deck like this, we push it into the wall. So it's an easy way that we can get to it from here, nail it from behind, and it's pretty easy this way. So that's the way we like to do it. One of the most important things that you're going to want to do after you get your joists installed is install some blocking. We have all the joists in already, so Josh is pre-cutting the blocking at 10 1/2 inches. Our joists are 12 inches on center, so this is going to fit right in between them. It's going to help minimize any movement in the deck over time, and it's going to help distribute the load between the joists. So it's a simple step, cheap insurance. Do it as much as you can. We'll put them in between each row of beams, and it's going to stiffen everything up. When installing the joists, we run everything long. This deck is going to be 17 feet deep, so we have 20-foot joists here. We just lay them in there like that, and then once we get everything set, we'll measure out from the house, and we'll make a mark where we need to cut it. So we have a mark on both sides. We'll snap a chalk line, cut them all so that they're all perfectly straight. There's no thinking involved. Just cut it at the line, install your rim joists, and it's perfectly straight. You'll notice on this project we're using all Madison wood for our framing. One of the reasons I really like Madison wood is because all of their lumber is treated for ground contact. That's not necessarily industry standard, but a lot of the decks that we do are low to the ground, so we want to definitely make sure it has extra preservative. And even if your deck's not low to the ground, like I said, it has extra preservative into it, so your deck's going to last longer. I think it's just the way to go, so that's why I like Madison wood. There's no second guessing it. You know it's treated for ground contact. So after watching this video, you should have a pretty good idea of how to get started framing a pressure treated deck with Madison wood. Stay tuned, we're gonna have some more videos that show some more of the detail stuff, give you some more tutorials. If you have any questions about the process, leave a comment. I'll be happy to answer it. But until then, stay tuned and good luck.